a wonderful, warm Botswana-style reception. Congratulations. So wonderful. The film never ceases to just be so powerful and moving, and it's just wonderful what you all have done. I know we really want to hear from them, so I'm not going to say much. I'm Lisa Truitt. I'm with the film group here at National Geographic, and we're just so proud to have this film and be doing something that will draw attention to Botswana and to the plight of big cats around the world. So thank you for coming tonight. We do, as John Fahey mentioned earlier, we really do need all of your help. These little independent films do have small budgets, and they really depend on word of mouth. So we have a couple of pieces of paper for you all to please grab when you leave the theater. And they tell you, how to get to our Facebook page and our trailer and the Cause and Uproar site to learn more about the cause and everything, a really robust program we have built around the film, and we'd really love for you to share it with your friends and family and encourage people to see the film and learn about it. So with that, because I have the mic, I get to ask the first question, and then we'll turn it all over to you. So how do you follow one family of lions, or do you? I mean, it's one thing to live in the bush, but to follow an individual lion and capture these moments, how do you do that?
Thank you, Lisa. First of all, thank you, everybody. I guess that you choose a good country to do it in. So. The way that we went about this film is we chose this lioness because she was a lone lioness, and so already a little bit special, a little bit different. But the nature of this sort of filmmaking is that you pick 2 or 3 different storylines, and you go with all of those until by Darwinistic parameters, 2 or 3 fall over and disappear. So we ended up with the strongest storyline, but the interesting thing is that there are 20,000 lions left, and each one of them has a story, and we could have made this film with each one of those 20,000.
So is her story, Maditao's story, seems so dramatic and extreme. Is it typical of a lioness's life?
It is typical, but not for her to be solitary. And that's why we concentrated a huge amount of time with her, because here she was a solitary lioness. Normally lions are in a pride, and they're very social. Maditao had way more extremes to conquer. Her life on a daily basis, where she was confronting one issue after the other. And yes, we filmed this over 2 years, but obviously we've had to compress her life into an 88-minute film. But she was confronting from being kicked out of an area with the males after her, and she could have succumbed to the males, but then she would have lost her cubs, and that was the battle. And that's really what all mothers would be facing. She was there protecting them, and then of course the next issue was swimming a river. Now, in 28 years, us filming lions in Botswana, and a lot of the time in the northern part of Botswana, we had never ever seen lions absolutely comfortable. Well, not completely comfortable at all. First of all, they were uncomfortable with it, but they adapted for their own survival. They had to. They were hunting the buffalo that were going through water, and it is an island. It's an island that, through the winter months, is 3/4 underwater. So she had an immense struggle, and that's really why we concentrated the story on her at the end of it.
It's amazing. How about questions from out there? In the middle there? There are mics if you'd like them roaming around that we can pass around.
After she joined the other pride, would the male lions accept her when the pride went back to see the males, and would they accept her cub?
Okay, well, the real situation is that they haven't gone back. So we've been in editing now for 2 years on this film. These lions still live on this island, and they haven't crossed back again, so we don't really know. There's a great likelihood that the males would accept her, I think, but we'll never know, because this is now a new pride, a new set of circumstances, and we just don't know. The very last land shot in there of the male lion that we're saying, could this young survivor become like this male lion? That's actually a male lion that's now found his way onto the island. So a different male altogether. So as it happens, this whole system is starting to work again quite nicely.
And what's happened to the cub, of Madi Tao's cub?
Well, interesting. We were there recently, and I don't know if you remember in the last sequence here, there's a dissolve from the young lion, close up, the heart of a lion shot, we call it, looking into his eyes, and then there's a dissolve to a sub-adult teenager. That's him as well. So he's doing quite well.
Other questions? Yes, here.
There probably are many reasons why the amount of lions in the wild has gone from 450,000 to 20,000. Of the many reasons, which are the ones that audiences like this can help you with? In other words, if we give you money, what will that do? Or if it's not money, what are the other reasons for this tremendous diminution of an animal segment?
Okay. Well, first of all, of the top 5 reasons that there are now so few lions, all of them are the same. It's all human-predator conflict. And whether it's the cattle cultures that are in East Africa in particular that are going out, and every time lions interact with cattle, those cattle owners rightfully have to have some sort of ego, come out and kill the lions. There's a hunting industry, there's a bone trade industry. All of those are our doing. Now, we've started the Big Cats Initiative with National Geographic, specifically as an emergency effort and an emergency program to try and tackle some of these issues. And over the last 3 years, we've put real programs on the ground, in the field, in Africa, in about, I think there are now about 12 grants that have been issued to various projects in about 5 or 6 countries, from the Cameroon all the way down to Botswana. And what we're looking for is for everybody to get in behind this effort. The truth is, we're not going to solve this. Beverly and I are not going to solve this on our own. We need everybody to get in with us on this, whether it's people helping to fund, it's people sending us ideas, it's people getting in and talking to their representation so that we can get maximum protection for these lions. There are 600,000 elephants in the world, and they have maximum protection under the International Body of Trade in Animal Parts, CITES. There are 20,000 lions, and they don't have any protection whatsoever. And we can really get in behind this. You can speak to your representation, and we need to get these things onto some sort of endangered species list. So there are a whole range of things. It's ideas, it's money, it's lobbying, it's knowledge. The more knowledge you have on the subject, the better it is for lions.
Can I add to that? Because Dereck, in planning the launch of this film, spoke to many, many lion scientists and said, if you had a blank check, what would you do? And I believe most of them answered and said, I'd build a big media campaign to change the world's perception of the situation. So we're very much hoping that this film can help change that awareness. Yes.
Dereck, would you mind giving us some of the details of some of those 12 grants that you've had so far? Because the media campaign is great. Okay, that's something all over the world we can do, but what about when you're down in the trenches?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about one, for instance, and that there's a compensation program. So every time cows in Maasai land in southern Kenya are killed by lions, we've raised a fund that can actually compensate people for that cattle loss so that they don't go out and then kill the lions. But that's just one of the programs. You know them better than I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one is in Tanzania, in 2 different areas. The woman is creating what they call living fences, which is growing bomas out of the indigenous trees, creating a secure boma so that they can lock up their cows at nighttime. I mean, it makes obvious sense. But of course, they've never been able to do this before. And so that has been very successful. Over a year now, there hasn't been one lion killing because they haven't had any cows being killed. then, of course, it's getting that awareness out. The awareness is crucial. In Kenya, for instance, and in fact right through Africa, there's a poison that's called furidin. And furidin actually is for agricultural use. Now, what they're doing is, in various areas where the community are living close to all the wilderness areas, not only the national parks, they are killing an animal and lacing it with furidin. That then, when the lions come and feed on the carcass, every single lion is killed. But not only the lions, every single animal that comes and feeds on it, from the hyenas right down to the flies, are killed. And so there's a program with a woman in Kenya that is working very closely with the government, and she's lobbying against that. So that is another one of the programs.
I think working with government, what this film does for us is it allows us to have the conversation. So we start with this in our other work, in our other films, but we start a conversation. And there are many people having this conversation, by the way. But one vein of this is that there are 20,000 lions, there are 3,500 of those that are male lions. And yet 600 male lion permits are issued every year to be shot as trophies. 550 of those come into the United States. Botswana actually is one of the few countries, in fact the only country since 1977, to ban lion hunting. So these are conversations that we have based on the media work that we do.
Other questions way in the back?
Why can't Botswana, I mean, I love Botswana, it's one of my favorite places in the world. Why can't the other countries follow suit with them? Why do places like Kenya and Tanzania and other parts of Africa allow these idiots to go in there with guns and kill these amazing lions? I don't understand it. Why do they do this?
Actually, in Kenya, there is no hunting at all, and that was stopped in the 70s, or was it the 60s? Yeah, in 1977. But you have a strong point there. And we're really hoping, with the efforts of what Botswana is doing right now, that there will be a shining example of the way to handle and protect their wilderness areas. Just to give you an idea, worldwide, it is known that between 12 to 16% of the land is protected, national parks. Botswana alone has a 19% national parks, but they have an added amount of these concession areas. And so Botswana has between 33%, and it's improving now to close to 40% of wilderness area. And so it is remarkable. Botswana is doing a fantastic job, and we truly are exactly like you. We would love the rest of the countries to come on board and protect their wilderness areas.
We have a bit of a secret weapon in Botswana, and forgive me if I reveal this, because I think it's a national secret. We have President Ian Khama.
I think there was a question back here.
With all your experience, you said it was extremely rare to find a female lioness charge the herd. Did you interpret what she did going after the Scarface as revenge, or how did you interpret that?
You know, I was very, very careful in writing the script so as to have you think that and not say it myself. I don't know. And what I do know, what we know from the time from working with these animals, with lions in particular for 28 years, is that that we don't have exclusive rights on emotions. We may think that we do. In fact, many people think that that's what sets us aside from the animal world. But very, very clearly, animals have emotions. If you've got a cat or a dog, you know that these are sentient animals and that they've got emotions. If you look, there was a frame in there, you may or may not remember it, but her cub behind her has got a broken back, and her eyes close twice, and then she swallows. There's something going on there. I don't know what it is, but I know that it's something. So to say that these animals don't have any sort of emotion is just ridiculous. Now it's archaic. But whether she went out and actually hunted down the Scarface bull because of that as revenge, I don't know. I think there's a strong possibility that the bull smelt of blood, the cub's blood. And we've seen that lions, whenever they go into the hunt, they'll have one strategic attack, and from then on, they're attracted to that blood that they've created, and then they hunt that animal down. So it might have just been total coincidence, but it was a 6-hour hunt.
Seeing this story very compacted is very emotional, and for you, how do your emotions get very involved in what you witness?
So the question is about our emotions when we're out there. Absolutely. It is the hardest for us. You know, we go through 18 hours in the field, and there's incredible physical hardship through the heat and the dust and the sun. But what really gets to us is those emotional hits. And they're happening almost on a daily basis. Sometimes it's an emotion of joy, but with that little cub, we had got to know that cub. We had watched that cub through the early days, playing with its brothers and sisters. And it was incredibly hard. The emotional drain outweighs anything else for us out there. And I think the emotional drain that we have is actually very valuable for us to go through that, purely because it helps us to bring that emotion and that intimacy to the film, to the story.
Yes.
Yes, I have a question, and that is, how close do you get to these animals in these fight scenes? I saw some scenes where you were quite close to the lions at the end. How well did they accept you or realize that you were there? And then when you were those scenes were incredible, but how do you do those tracking scenes? How far away are you when you do that? I found them amazing.
Okay, well, generally we try not to be too close. Mainly because we don't have doors on our truck, as you see. No, but the sweet spot for us is about 20 or 30 meters, yards. And that's where it looks best. That's where you're sort of looking into the island, not looking down on the animal, and they're not a speck in the distance. But we have tremendous lenses. You know, we can film these things very, very far away. But the reason that we don't like to get much closer than that is because we want this behavior to happen naturally, without us being part of the picture. It doesn't always go that way, though. So, for instance, in the finale here, in the big scene where they're hunting the buffalo, that was a 6-hour event. And it was so intense for us that we were very, very focused. We were juggling cameras, trying to get multiple angles. We were really busy. And somewhere through there, I looked down and there was blood smeared down the side of my leg. And I thought that maybe I'd scratched myself in the car or even been bitten. But there was nothing. So clearly what happened is that one of the lionesses with blood on her face came up and sniffed down my leg. But I was totally unaware of it. And so we very, very often very close to these animals. They sleep in the shade of our vehicle. But the real trick for us is that we don't want to get into the story. We don't want them to be aware of us, particularly.
The first lion fight seemed to be photographed under some kind of floodlights.
Can I give you this?
The first lion fight seemed to be photographed under some kind of artificial light. Was any artificial light used for that sequence?
Yes, and the great advantage that we have today is of this great high definition. This is all shot on high definition, and we're able to shoot later and later at night and earlier in the morning. So probably an hour and a half, 2 hours before sunrise even, and get something. What we did there is, and you can never tell, but largely we didn't work at night on this show. If something happened, it was in the last light or in the first light coming in, In that case, eruption of a big fight, and it was, in that sort of pre-magic hour, and we used headlights, car headlights in that case there. But I don't really like to use lighting anymore at night. It influences the situation too much.
Yes, here on the side. Here's the mic.
Animals, not just the lions, but it seems to me that all wildlife, we get, please, every post brings, please to save this animal, the apes, the leopards, the elephants, and it seems to me that we're doing a holding action. I'd like your views, a long view on what is the future, not just for the lions, but for all our wildlife.
I think it really it's over to all of us. We really have to take action right now. And I have faith in the human species. We've created the most incredible things through my time and before. And so I do have faith. But we really do have to pay attention right now. Because if we don't pay attention, we're really only going to harm ourselves. There's a potential climate change. And as we carry on logging all the forests, how are we going to clean the air and get oxygen? So it really is up to every single one of us. And you are right. It's almost every species is in the situation of a 95% decline. I know Mike Fay has just spoken about the redwood forest, and he's talking about a 95% decline. Hendrik Sala and Sylvia Earle are talking about a 95% decline with the large pelagic fish in the ocean. So we are in serious trouble, but I do believe that we can change it. We can turn it around. I think we have to be optimistic.
And I think it starts with awareness. If whenever we say this figure that there were 450,000 lions and today there are 20,000 lions, the air goes out of the room. Everybody goes, what? Are the iconic lions of the world are that bad? Who's been looking after these things? Lions have this big problem in that they are big iconic animals, and everybody thinks that if you go to Africa you're going to see a lion. Well, that's not true anymore. There are places like Botswana where you will see a lion. There are places in Tanzania you will see a lion. But they're becoming harder and harder to find. And so they're their own worst PR because everybody thinks they're everywhere. So this starts with awareness. If you understand that there's a problem, I'm a firm believer in the human capacity to do the right thing. And what we've seen already within the Big Cats Initiative is people rallying behind it and saying, this one we've got to fix, but we've got 5 years to fix it in.
And we have ancient cultural beliefs in various countries. For instance, in Asia, the cultural belief has always been that tiger bone, and they created tiger bone wine, has a medicinal purpose, and it gives them power. And of course, they use this tiger bone wine to celebrate the new year. Well, of course, tigers are almost extinct. So what is happening right now is they're substituting with lion bone. That is alarming. But what we need to do is, we can't chastise them for doing that. This is an old, ancient culture. And it's really just, as Dereck said, bring that awareness. It's bringing the awareness to every single culture so that we stop using animal parts. If we stop the trade, we can definitely stop the killing.
Yes, in the red.
You spoke about how your emotions were involved in everything that you did. Are there times when you actually do something or you make changes, and under what circumstances would that happen? Like with the lion cub who had his back broken. Would you intervene at that particular point if you knew you could save him because there are only so many of these magnificent creatures left?
Yeah. So the question, for those who couldn't hear it, is at what point do we abandon our philosophy of non-intervention and then step in and actually do something and try and help an animal? Now, clearly, we've developed philosophies over 28 years working with these animals, and we very early on drew that line in the sand and said it's incorrect of us. It's ethically wrong for us to intervene. Because this has been going on with lions for 3.5 million years. Lions have been lions for 3.5 million years. So whatever natural things that are going on within their system, it's absolutely wrong of us to step in and to say, we're offended by that today. It's a little snapshot. So, but the time that we do go out is if the animal's caught in a snare, or if it's got a bullet hole in it, or if it's caught in a man-made water hole. Then we do whatever we can to get in there and to get that animal out of there, to bring vets in, to dart the animal and to fix it. But I think that what we can't do is delve in there and try and fix these things that have been going on for so long. It's getting to a point, though, where as we transition from dealing and trying to fix an entire population to trying to rescue individuals of that population as those numbers decline, we may have to revise our feelings on this.
Just a tip for the phones ringing. Sorry, don't mean to pick you out, but if you go on your smartphone to thelostlions.com, we have a mobile website where you can download a lion roaring as your ringtone. So, and I will tell you, every time my lion roars, it triggers a conversation about why I have a lion on my phone, and talking about lions. I mean, all these little things actually do trigger conversations. So, sorry to point you out, but other questions? Are we okay on time? Okay, 5 minutes. Couple more questions. Yes.
And sorry, Lisa, one other thing. I think if anybody has had a ringtone tonight, they have to pay a forfeit. They have to text 50555 lines.
Donate $10. There you go. That's 2 times, I guess. Poor guy. Sorry. Okay, who had their hands up? There we go.
We've been talking about lions, but what about other great cats? Are there any? We know tigers are in dire straits. What about some of the others? Leopards, jaguars?
Well, the rate of decline is fairly consistent across all of these. So leopard numbers in our lifetime have gone from 700,000 down to 50,000. The cheetah numbers have gone from 45,000 down to perhaps 12,000. There are fewer than 3,000 tigers left. So all of these big cats are on the fast track to extinction, and our prediction on that is that we're going to start seeing these extinctions within 10 years. So a lot of the children in the audience, before they can get to Africa and experience these, there won't be any lions there. There won't be any leopards and tigers left in the wild. So that's why we're saying we've got 5 years to do this in, to turn it around. And that's been the main ambition of the Big Cats Initiative. It is an emergency program. We have to turn this around within 5 years. We don't have to fix it entirely, but we've got to see this dip change.
Couple more. Yes, here in the red.
Are there any other areas in the world that could relieve some of the pressure on our friends in Africa, as far as areas where we could have shelters for wild animals? You know, it seems like we're here in America, let's say, trying to influence policies in other parts of the world, but why not try to do something right here, for instance?
Well,
as a lifeboat.
Yeah. I think that the rescue and lifeboat philosophies are a lot easier for let's call them the lower animals. So if there's an endangered antelope, we could pull that out and put it into someplace in Texas, for instance. It's extremely difficult, and we're very, very strongly against putting big cats into cages, trying to breed these big cats, and then trying to release them. You just do not reintroduce big cats. Does not happen. But the good news is that all these big cats, lions in particular, breed very well. They breed very fast. If we've given them space and we leave them alone and we secure the perimeter, They breed very well. So I don't think we're anywhere near the point of needing to extract animals and to start breeding programs from that. I also think that Africa is perfectly capable of protecting these places. You know, the West doesn't have to step in and do this. Botswana's got a very, very good policy on this. So does Kenya now. And they are fantastic places in Africa and good governments in Africa. And I think we have to trust in them and just make sure that we keep feeding the knowledge through to this. It's nowhere near the lifeboat scenario just yet.
And then I think we have to look at all forms of conservation. And when animals are on a serious decline, and that's in Africa right now, a form of safari hunting is not conservation. So we really have to take that out of the formula. This is the 21st century, and if we were hunting for meat because we needed to, it would be a different thing. But these are trophies. These are trophies that are brought to hang on a wall somewhere and just gather dust.
Okay, one more way in the back there.
Help the lion population as a whole. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, next. No, that's fine. You're in the back, so we sort of heard that. I don't think that that's necessary at all. And I think that the minute we start getting into that, we really start getting into the mechanics of the way nature works. A good example is in Joubert Plains. There's a river that basically isolates this entire island. It's about 100 square miles in size. Since Beverly and I have lived there, there have been 107 cubs that have been killed there by lions themselves. Had all of those cubs survived, the population of lions would be too high in that area. They would have wiped out the buffalo by now. So I think that we've got to be very, very careful about rolling up our sleeves and trying to fix things that are there. There's a balance in there. Lions have been killing their cubs and other lions' cubs for 3.5 million years. That's not our problem. Our problem is that suddenly now we've developed weapons that make it much easier for us to eradicate competing predators. And we're very, very uncomfortable sharing this planet with other predators that scare us and give us nightmares.
I want to just close, but I'm sorry we're out of time, but our website, thelastlions.com, has a lot of more questions and answers with Dereck and Beverly that you can go to. I want to thank again Botswana Tourism and the government of Botswana, Ambassador Seretse, and all our other partners who have come tonight, and for all of you for your interest and support, and mostly to Dereck and Beverly for their generous time.
Thank you very much.